Well, first of all, we have to face reality that these are not just people that missed a paycheck and got evicted. I mean, there's a very small portion of the homeless population that is that type of person. And in Austin, we have brick and mortar shelters to house those types of people, the entire population of that particular bucket. But then we have the two other buckets, which are mentally ill and the drug addicted. And the thing about the mentally ill and the drug addicted are, sometimes in life, we have to have an elderly parent declared incompetent. So, this is kind of along the same lines as if, once somebody has demonstrated to us, the taxpayers, that they are serial rehab failures as far as their drug addiction, at that point, I just, it's a lot of tough love. Those people are going to start getting arrested and their encampments are going to be eradicated on the spot. And they're going to go to jail, and we're just going to have to make it very inconvenient and uncomfortable for them to try to live that lifestyle here in Austin. And eventually they're going to move on to another city that enables that lifestyle. Now, as far as for the mentally ill, we need to start identifying national and state level funding for mental health facilities. We cannot ignore the fact that there is nowhere for these people to go, and it's not their fault in most cases, and their families can't take care of them. And those are actual people that I really feel like we can do the right thing by, but we cannot expect the Austin taxpayer to shoulder the expense for mental health facilities, because if we do that here, they're going to come from all over the state, if not all over the nation, just to get the mental health treatment that they need on the taxpayer's dime. Just like how when we enable the homeless population to live on the streets, we just become a magnet for it. So we can't become a magnet. The Austin taxpayers cannot afford to pay for the rest of the country in any regard. We are so busy trying to cover our own bills. We have got to be smart with our tax dollars.
Fair enough. Anything you want to add there, Ian?
I actually wanted to move on to another subject that was based on her response to that.
Sure.
And that was going to be the UBI. So Austin City Council is voting on UBI Thursday. And I know that I was looking at your Twitter profile. I know that you and the current mayor, Steve Adler, have very different positions. Can you go over that and kind of explain that for people?
So no doubt about it, that UBI is an insult to our intelligence. I would never propose something I would never try to get something past an Austin voter or a taxpayer, something that's $1.2 million to help 85 people. In some cases, it's an individual getting 1,000, not even a family getting 1,000. We have no idea, then somebody's going to be paid $150,000 to track what these people do with their, $12,000 a year. And all I can see is somebody leasing a Beamer or, going to Coshada. That's just ridiculous. I mean, that's like giving a high schooler $1,000 a month to do with whatever they want. And then they start budgeting their life that includes that $1,000. And then when this year is up, how are we going to terminate that program? They're going to say we can't terminate the program because now these people are used to having that $1,000 a month. It makes no sense whatsoever. And it's a socialist program, and I'm not for that at all. But and in regard to the Twitter, the tweet, yeah, we could take $1.2 million, and we could give those EMS workers a $1,400 per year raise rather than 14 cents an hour, which is another insult from City Council. Or we could authorize and budget for more police officers. I mean, there's all kinds of things we can do with that kind of money. It's just typical of the waste that it's just they're so cavalier with our money.
It's interesting. You said 85 people. So just for people that may or may not know, UBI, we're referring to the universal basic income, where there's almost a per diem provided to people just for being citizens, essentially is what it is. And there's a vote from the Austin City Council to decide whether or not they're going to provide. Do you remember? Can you tell us the amount to each of these people?
$1,000 per month for 85, either families or individuals. So it's 85 parties to receive $1,000 per month for a 1-year pilot program. And how do they decide we have so many needy people in this town, so many people that could use $1,000 a month. How would they possibly ever have an equitable decision on who is to receive that money? How do we know? How do we know what day to apply, where to apply, what makes us the most competitive in the application process? Is somebody going to get a leg up on somebody else because they're going to get inside information or have some help from somebody, you know, that they might know in the city to be approved for that program? It's just rife with problems, and it's obvious. I mean, it's just common sense.
Well, and one of the reasons why I asked that specific question, I feel like that's a direct correlation to the homeless conversation, just because if you end up with a population currently living in tents or with a mental disability, then now they're provided this income. Do we think that's a positive or a negative? How does that impact our environment? And so I think it's a kind of a, like I said, a correlation.
Well, I guess my comment to that would be, I would be really worried about the fact that somebody that might have an addiction problem or a mental health issue be given $1,000 a month. They can't be relied on to spend that money responsibly. I think $1.1 million could do a lot to put homeless people in cots, in shelters where they're required to take drug tests and, abide by the curfew and be productive members of society and look for jobs. But I'm not at all about enabling anybody living on the streets here in Austin.
Fair enough. I mean, what was interesting during the time that we had that amount of people on the streets, I had clients coming into town to look at homes, and we went to downtown. I stopped personally going downtown for that reason. It was actually right before we did the vote. I took a client. It was a very good client. We went to dinner, and they were appalled because in front of City Hall was lined all the way around City Hall was tents. And so, I think there's ways that we can, you have like Community First Village, which I donate to. I've donated time, money, and energy to them. A great organization. So and the thing about Community First is that it's not funded by the local government. It's all by donations, and they run a very tight ship there. I mean, part of the thing with Community First is you can't have a drug problem. You can't do drugs while you're there. They do a lot of really great things for the people there. And one time I was volunteering and somebody came in and they're like, well, how safe is this here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at all these people. They're amazing. So I think there's a lot of really great people that are on the street that just need help. I know right now we've done quite a bit. We spent millions of dollars on hotels for people. If you go to parks, there are parks where people are still camping in. So the problem didn't necessarily go away when we voted, but it did create a problem where it can be unsafe if you're, a single person running through a park, and potentially there's an issue there. So I don't know the greatest answer for this problem, and that's why I was hoping to get some good feedback from you there. I thought I saw something today on KXN or something like that Adler was trying to get. I want to say it was 500 million and he was like 2/3 of the way there, 500 million to solve the problem. I don't know if that was to solve the problem, but am I accurate in that?
That's about right. Yeah. I mean, doesn't sound too good to me. I think we could solve that problem for a lot less. Like I said, if we're helping out people that are actually really homeless and they don't have a drug or alcohol or whatever, if they're not drugging and they're willing to live by curfews and drug testing and all that, if they want to live on the taxpayer's dime, then they're going to need to live in shelters, and they're not going to be, single family residents. They're not going to be studio condos like these hotels are. We're going to have to get serious, down and dirty. You have to motivate people to want to improve their situation. If you start giving them studio condos in these little boutique hotels that they're going to end up being for about 10 minutes, I mean, what's the motivation there for them to ever get out of that situation and become self-sufficient?
Thanks for watching this short of the Real Amigos podcast. For more live streams, hit here. For more clips, hit here. We'll catch you on the next one.